everybody. Welcome to this episode of Lunch with Alumni. I am so excited to bring Ryan Murphy, class of 2009, to our conversation today. Ryan is such a great person and someone so cool for you all to learn from. So definitely pay attention to all the great tips and advice that she gives to us today. So Ryan went to Duke and she's had a lot of different cool jobs, but she also works for a company now called Broadway Plus. And so I think maybe if you've heard of Disney Plus and other streaming companies like that, you might have an idea of what Broadway Plus does, but we're going to learn all about that today and Ryan's career path and her journey. So welcome, Rye. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much, Annie. I'm so pumped to be back here. I was actually thinking a lot about this recently because I was supposed to come to Career Day last year. And that was literally the week that kind of the world shut down.
Exactly.
I was supposed to renew my license while I was in town. I mean, the whole thing.
Oh my God.
I was super bummed to miss out on getting back to DCDS, but this is next best thing.
Yes.
So pumped to be chatting with you.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited. And yeah, that's true about Career Day. So you'll have to come next year. So March of 2022, hopefully we'll be back in action with Career Day. And you can tell us more about Broadway Plus then. But okay, so let's actually go back to your time at DCDS. Bring us into like upper school, Ryan. Like, what activities were you involved in? What were you doing? What sports? Were you in theater? Where did you like to hang out in school? Kind of like give us a sense of all that.
Love it. Great. So I got braces first day of school, sophomore year.
Okay.
Love it.
Great way to start out.
Great way to kick it off. So I had two older twin sisters who also went to Country Day. They kind of, paved the path for what sports I was involved in too. So, they played tennis and softball. I did tennis and softball. Freshman year was actually the last year that Michigan had tennis in the fall and softball in the spring. Then they changed the seasons. So I ended up having kind of a free season in the fall that I needed to fill. And I ended up filling it with theater. So I was in band in middle school, did choir in high school, and was just like in general, a very dramatic theatrical person. So that opened up the gate for me to get more involved in school production. So a Comedy of Errors we did one year, which actually through Mr. Nahan, we came to New York City and performed in like an off-Broadway stage. And I still remember that trip. We found like an empty playground to rehearse, and it was really, really cool to kind of get that experience here. And even with choir, we sang at Carnegie Hall here in New York too one year, which was just insane. So, and then of course, like senior year, a bunch of us did Les Mis. I was Cosette, which was very, very fun.
I bet that was great.
It was really fun because it was an all school musical, and a bunch of people who like, your typical like football players and everyone, we just, as seniors, we were just kind of like, we're all going to do this show. It's going to be really fun. And
that's great.
Hanging out in the halls, the hallowed halls, loved the little courtyard between the main building and the lunchroom, especially on like a bright and sunny day, would just kind of plop myself down there. Otherwise, back near the theater.
That's right. So that's kind of like coming full circle because the students just did Les Mis this past year, but they had to stream it. So it's kind of like, Broadway Plus at Country Day.
Yes. And I was actually just talking to Elizabeth Erb, who was 2 or 3 years younger than me. She was my understudy as Cosette.
Okay.
And the two of us were like, oh my God, I can't believe they're already doing Les Mis again. Like we just did it. And I was like, no, that was nearly a decade ago.
No, Elizabeth.
That was no.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's funny. So you graduate from DCDS and you go to Duke, which is super exciting. And how was that transition? Like, you talked a little bit about your sisters just now, but they also went to Duke before you as well. So how was the transition having, siblings who had already gone through that sort of, which can be like a very nerve-wracking transition from high school to college? Did it make it any easier?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think just as far as they're having friends in lower grades who kind of knew to look out for me a little
Mhm.
bit, but I'm a pretty fiercely independent
Yes.
person, and
Mhm.
um I I would say even when I was younger, like our family moved around a lot. I was obviously in at Country Day from third grade onward, but before that we moved around a lot, and so I was kind of used to being in new situations and meeting new people and making new friends. So going to Duke so far away from Michigan, I viewed it as an opportunity to meet as many new people as possible, and it was
Right.
like new exciting adventure. Um,
I love that.
yeah, and I also do want to say, because I know there are a lot of seniors out there who are getting ready to go to college. Um, I was actually deferred from Duke. I applied early decision
Okay.
and was deferred. So, as
Wow.
my sisters went there, my dad also went
Mhm.
there. That was obviously getting deferred, getting rejected is no fun. It's a pretty hard blow. And um, I it was actually I'm really glad that it happened, because I then just kind of blazed through the Common App for a bunch of other schools,
Okay.
applied to like Denison, Lehigh, Lafayette, that kind of thing. And I ended up getting into a bunch of other schools. And it was kind of this nice reminder that, like,
Yeah.
even if your first choice says thanks but no thanks, there are
Yeah.
so many other opportunities that are going to come down the pike, and where you're going to realize your value. So if anyone's going through that, chin up. You're going to have a fantastic college experience no matter where you go.
I love
um,
that.
but yeah, I ended up going to Duke.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think the transition, I did a pre-orientation program called Project Waves, which was for freshmen. It was a week kayaking and camping around the Outer Banks, and that
I
kind of
sort of
just,
remember this. Yes. Okay. I remember
yeah,
that this happens with Duke. It also happens with Dartmouth, doesn't it?
yeah, I would recommend everyone look into some pre-orientation
Yeah.
programs. It's going to cut your summer maybe a week or two short, and I know that's really important. You want to say bye to all your friends, but like, I was immediately thrown into this community of freshmen and upperclassmen too, because they were like, I ended up being a counselor for P Waves
Okay.
in my subsequent years. So you're immediately connected to this community of people who are going to look out for you, have your
Love it.
back, and make new friends. So yeah, definitely look into pre-orientation programs. Um, just kind of explore everything that you want to do. I mean, especially after having siblings go through college, I was like, okay, acapella is a thing. I want to join an acapella group.
Mhm.
Okay, sororities are a thing. I want to join a sorority. And luckily, in being so involved in theater too, that gave me a whole other
Yeah.
group of people to have on campus and kind of extend my network. And I ended up figuring out senior year, like, I actually didn't want to be in an a cappella group anymore. And I auditioned for the improv group on campus and made that. And that was great too. So, go in with an open mind. It's
I
good to
love
have
that.
goals, but like, be open to just every opportunity, every new friend that you can
Mhm.
make. And yeah, that would be my advice.
I love that. Those are great tips. I especially love just your whole commentary on at first getting deferred from Duke. I think that that's great. And then I also love the concept of the pre-orientation programs. I hope that students can take advantage of that
Yeah.
after hearing from you, just if their college offers that. I think that's genius.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go through Duke, you're doing all these fun things, improv, you're the counselor, you're doing stuff, Blue Devils.
Yep.
We probably went to a few basketball games,
Just a few.
just a few. Now, walk us through your jobs, like your few of your jobs that you had after Duke. So, how did you get those jobs? And you're very passionate about theater. Obviously, you were doing that stuff in college. So, how did you ensure that you were still kind of keeping this interest and passion alive, even if your job wasn't directly related to theater at the time?
For sure. Um, so yeah, I actually didn't even declare theater being my major, theater studies, until junior year
Okay.
at Duke. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can make a career in theater.
Hmm.
I'm unsure, I should probably just, major in psychology or something, a
Hmm.
little bit safer. But after doing a semester abroad, I came back and I was like, who am I kidding? I got to do theater.
Yeah.
It just got to be. And I credit Duke's program heavily with making sure, you think you want to be an actor and be on stage, great. But in order to get your degree, you're going to have to do a directing class, a set design class, a theater and business
Oh, cool.
class, all sorts of things. So then it made me realize like there are so many ways to be involved in theater without being the one on stage.
Hmm.
And going into graduation, so many people in my theater class were getting ready. They were putting together their audition
Sure.
portfolios. They were starting to think about what grad schools they wanted to go to. And I had this moment where I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. I also don't know if I want to go through like an audition circuit. I don't know if I can handle that. Um, just me personally, like handling that kind of rejection. So knowing that I could still have a career in theater that wasn't as a performer was
Yeah.
very empowering for me to know going forward. So finding a job. Um, well, I was a camp counselor at
Hmm.
Chautauqua, New York, which is this little summer community near Buffalo, New York. Grew up going there my whole life.
Hmm.
Went there as a camper, then became a counselor. And I also say this because that was summer um, before freshman year at Duke, before sophomore year at Duke. Um, and then I did a theater program in London the summer before my junior year. But, I think there's a lot of pressure to make sure that you have the best internship or like the most applicable job experience like right off the bat, when in reality like I loved being a camp counselor, and I still learned so much about like production and
Hmm.
keeping track of 30 girls at once and
Yeah.
entertaining them. So um that's just a little side note. And then at Chautauqua, they have a summer conservatory, a theater company. And I interned there the summers before and after my senior year at Duke. So I was just kind of like a general catch-all admin intern. I made coffee. We did popcorn Fridays. I made the popcorn.
Yeah.
If we needed more reams of paper for the printer, I was hopping in a little golf cart and picking up some paper from the store. And just kind of anything that needed to be done, I made myself
Right.
available. And it was such a fun summer. It was a great experience. And I, again, with remaining open to opportunities, there was this visiting director who needed somebody to take notes for him. So I would just like sit through rehearsals, and whatever he just like said in my ear, I would just scribble it down on a piece of paper. And
Wow.
like that wasn't part of my job description. It was extra hours that I was clocking, but like when else would I have been able to do that?
Right.
And then I was lucky because they offered me an internship the next summer. So kind of going through senior year, I knew I had that in my back pocket.
Hmm.
And I kind of figured, for me, it'll be nice to not have to stress out so much while at school about finding my
Yes.
job. I'll just,
I'm also sure in the Duke environment is really highly competitive.
yeah, yes. I mean, fall of senior year is probably even too late for people who are going into
Right.
like the med school or the consulting or the banking track. But for me, it was kind of nice because I was like, well, I'm going to give myself an extra summer, still get
Hmm.
some very relevant work experience at this conservatory, and then just be able to take the summer to find my job and
Yeah.
make the next move. So while that summer after my senior year, I just kind of reached out to everyone I could think of. And actually, my spring break senior year, I didn't go to Cabo. I didn't go to Miami. I came to New York City and I stayed with my aunt and uncle, and I got coffee, dinner, went on walks with everyone I knew who was involved in theater, who I knew at Duke, who I met through the Chautauqua Theater Company. And I just met with as many people as possible, growing that network. And that's when I got my first internship. It was actually a sorority sister of mine was interning at the Charlotte Wilcox Company, which is a general management company for theater. So general management companies, they're the ones who basically like hold the purse strings. So
Mhm.
they, they make sure that all the actors are getting paid, that rent is being paid on the theaters. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, if it's a touring company, they're like booking the tour bus, booking the hotel rooms, that kind of thing. So I was interning for the Charlotte Wilcox Company for Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
Okay.
Was here for a week. And then my current boss at Broadway Plus, I stayed in touch with him. He was the student producer on my freshman year show of Rent. I was Maureen in Rent, and he was
Wow.
the student producer, became fast friends, stayed in touch. So he told me he was quitting his job or leaving his job for another one at Sereno Coin, which is a Broadway advertising agency. And he was like, I know you're in New York now. Do you want to apply for my job? And that was how I got my first job in New York City.
Okay. Wow. I love that. And I think it's just so important, Ryan. And I love that you're saying this. Like, students should not understand the power of a network and like relying on people that you already know for opportunities. Like, it is simply too challenging out there, especially now, to be like throwing your name up on like a random job board. Like,
Yep.
making those warm connections and like staying in touch, going on walks like you did, getting coffee with people, like it's just so key. So like that's like how you have to go about this. So okay. So you have this job, but then you start working at this company called Ollie.
Yes.
So tell me about Ollie, because I think it's fascinating. Why is it kind of like a newer concept in real estate? And then what part of that, what element of your job description there do you think like helped lead you into your job at Broadway Plus?
For sure. So yeah, I got into events. So at Sereno Coin, it's an ad agency, but we would also do Broadway opening night parties.
Yes,
So
I would always see that you were doing these parties.
yes,
Yeah.
which I loved.
Mhm.
So basically in general, anytime a new show opens on Broadway, you got to have an opening night
Of
party.
course.
You just got to. And there's a huge press element to it. And also everybody just deserves a night to hang out, have fun, and celebrate their success. So yeah, I did like The Color Purple, Cats, Disaster, just all sorts of fun stuff. And I also got to do the Tony Awards after party
Yes.
2 years in a row at the Plaza Hotel.
So cool.
Very fun. But I started wanting to do kind of more smaller scale, more frequent events. So Ollie is a co-living startup, was a co-living startup. They were recently purchased by Star City, another co-living
Okay.
startup. And their whole concept was, especially in major cities like LA, San Francisco, and New York, when you move here, how the cost of housing is very high.
Mhm.
So you're going to be in a one bedroom with your friend. You're going to throw up a fake wall and like just cohabitate in
Yeah.
this smaller space. You're going to
Sure.
be in a 2 bedroom with 3 people. It goes on and on, just so that you guys can split the rent between another person.
Yep.
That poses a few problems. One, it's a little uncomfortable for you and your friend or
Mhm.
roommate. And two, the developer at the end of the day doesn't know this is happening. It could potentially be a safety hazard, and they're missing out on a potential chunk of rent.
Yep.
So Ollie proposed to developers, why not create purpose-built roommating solutions and then reinvest some of that additional cost you can charge for rent, reinvest that into the residential experience. So these rooms are fully furnished, fully serviced. So weekly housekeeping, we're refilling your
Wow.
shampoo and conditioner, like topping up your toilet paper once a week, all of this stuff to make your life easier and more affordable. And we throw in a community element to it as well.
Okay.
Weekly events. And so the weekly
That's where
event
you
is
come
where
in.
I came in.
Mhm.
That is where I came in.
Mhm.
So I launched Ollie Social, which was their social club. So if you're a resident, you get to go to everything for free. But if you live in New York City and you want to join, you pay an annual or a
That
monthly
is so
rate.
cool. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of staying in touch with your connections, Nathaniel, my current boss, he had started Broadway Plus at that point, and so our
Okay.
first event for Ollie Social was through Broadway Plus, and we would do monthly group tickets to shows. We like went to see Kinky Boots and did a cast meet and greet afterwards. All sorts of fun
That's so
stuff. So
awesome. Oh my God.
yeah, it was
Cool.
great. And so how did I kind of I really grew as a professional at Ollie, and I really accredit that to their leadership and kind of honing in on what my skill set was, and being like, hey, you plan these awesome events, but you give really great tours to investors. Our CEO ended up splitting his time between LA and New York. And so if he was unavailable for either like a PR interview or a panel, he would just send me in his place and I would
Right.
represent the company. And I think it's really funny too, because I, at a certain point, like I don't know too much about the financials
Right.
of
Right.
like a
Right.
building,
Yeah.
but give me a script, give me
Oh,
a stage, and
right.
I will perform.
A
And
natural performer, Ryan
natural
Murphy.
performer, exactly.
I
So
love
yeah, I'm
that.
like, oh yeah, there's a 40% lift on ROI of that. You know, to a certain extent knew what I was
Yes.
talking about. Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, so that was great. And I think I really thrived in a startup environment, mostly because like, you know, I I can pick up on how to do things. If I don't know how to do something, I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Especially in a startup when it's like your job is this thing, but then it's also like all these other things.
Yeah.
So being able to be flexible and kind of mold myself into um, where I'm needed most in the company. I never really I did have a direct report who I reported to, but mostly it was just kind of like I know what I got to do every day,
Yeah.
every week, and I'm going to do it. Um, so you know, COVID happens,
Yeah.
and I was moved to part time in April.
Okay.
We did as a lot of businesses did. They did a series of furloughs and me
Sure.
being moved to part time. It ended up being kind of good timing for me because my lease in New York was up at the end of May. So I was
Okay.
like, well, this kind of answers the question as to whether or not I'm going to renew. I'm not going to renew.
Right.
Um, moved in with Sue and George
Oh,
with the parents in Philly,
okay.
and being moved to part time actually opened me up to Nathaniel approaching me at the end of May and saying, I need somebody to run our social, do our email campaigns, do all of these things. Like, can you come on part time? So I was part time for Ollie, part time for Broadway Plus,
Love it.
and I was doing everything from like I'm not a graphic designer, but I was doing graphic design
Yeah.
and running their social accounts and
Okay.
helping with. We were doing a huge website redesign in July, and so I kind of helped with like the user experience with that. Um, Again, just kind of filling in where was necessary, like putting together marketing materials, doing a lot of outreach, getting new clients, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, and as things went along, um, the whole hope was eventually Broadway Plus would be able to bring me on full time.
Yeah.
And in September, Nathaniel kind of approached that question again. And he was like, I know stuff with Ollie, you're still figuring that out. But would you be open to considering coming on full time? And at that point, Ollie was kind of more or less winding down their operations.
Okay.
I actually was in LA for about 2 months, August and September, opening up a building for Ollie out there. Just again, because wasn't my job description, but
Right. But I'm
went
going.
out to LA.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it timed out perfectly with me coming back from LA, starting full time with Broadway Plus, and I'm now the director of community. I'm
Right.
no longer running social. We've got other team members to do that,
Okay.
and I've kind of morphed into this position of kind of like an operations position. I seek out, you know, inefficiencies in how something is getting done. If somebody is being prohibited from getting their job done, like what other factors are happening? Where can we make these systems a little bit better? I also, I still make coffee for everyone every
Sure.
morning. Sure. Yep. We do Bagel Wednesdays. So I got to
Fun.
produce bagels for Bagel Wednesdays. So
Okay.
it's been really fun to kind of, as our team has grown, me kind of continuing to be in that startup environment and nesting into, really where my strengths as a professional lie, and being able to bring that kind of like more corporate experience to the startup environment.
Okay, great. So let's just backtrack a little bit because I think maybe I was wrong about what Broadway Plus is. So I apologize. So can you just tell us all what Broadway Plus is, what you guys do, how you've kind of like, because I feel like you've like flourished in the pandemic. So tell us about Broadway Plus.
Would love to. Yeah, we've been really, really lucky. So Broadway Plus was founded by Nathaniel Hill back in 2016, actually,
Okay.
because he saw a void in the marketplace for VIP experiences at Broadway shows. You can go to a basketball game and
Yes.
upgrade your ticket and go to the VIP lounge, have those kinds of things, meet the players afterwards. There was nothing like that on Broadway. So, he started Broadway Plus, and producers would come to him and say, and again, with growing your network, he had worked in Broadway and stayed in touch with these producers and directors and everyone. So he had the contacts.
Yeah, to be able to call on people to make this happen.
Exactly. And artists as well. So he would put together packages for Kinky Boots. There was even a walk-on role for Beetlejuice that you could shell out some money for. And
Wow. Okay.
it was typically like, you get an orchestra level seat, a signed playbill, drink ticket, backstage tour, was kind of the bread and butter of what he was offering. But people would come to him and be like, I want to have dinner with an artist or an in-person voice lesson while I'm here for the weekend, those kinds of things. So a true like full service concierge.
Very
Then
cool.
March of 2020 happened, and all of Broadway went to zero. And it was himself and one other coworker at the time, and they were kind of like, what are we going to do? And they reached out to a couple of their clients and a couple of the artists they had worked with, and they were like, would you consider meeting with somebody on Zoom? Would you consider paying for that, being paid for that? And people were so into the idea, and it just ballooned from
Wow.
there. And part of that was heavy outreach to everyone that they had already worked with, but then there was this whole new market that Nathaniel was able to reach. Instead of being able to,
Yeah.
you have to buy a ticket and a hotel for your stay in New York, and then you're already thinking about buying a ticket to a show. Your target audience is a little bit different than a $50 meet and greet anywhere in the world. So
Right.
now all of a sudden our target audience is literally everyone everywhere. And we did a whole rehaul of the website last July to be able to book directly with artists on our site. So
Okay.
it's similar to Cameo.
I was just gonna say, okay.
Yep. So Cameo does video shout outs. We also do video shout outs, but the whole purpose is to provide a platform for 30-minute meet and greets, a 1-hour vocal technique lesson,
That is
a
awesome.
dance lesson. Yeah.
Okay.
And some of the artists offer like a beginner guitar lesson or like yoga lattes. And it's super fun to see how creative they are. And yeah, you can book everything through the site. But then we've also, holiday parties, we were just going gangbusters. And we've worked with Google and Morgan Stanley and huge companies, and put on these fully produced shows all on Zoom, of these Broadway actors.
Wow.
And it's great for them because it's additional income at a time when they're not performing, they
Right.
can't get on stage. And it's been
That's fabulous. So it is not a streaming service. Let's make
not
sure.
a streaming service.
No, not yet, but
No.
I'm waiting.
But yeah, it's not streaming, but we do offer like weekly events that anyone can go to, and you
Oh,
can
cool.
buy tickets to and watch. So
Great. Okay, everybody, we're going to a weekly event. We're making it
yes.
happen. Okay,
Yes.
can't wait. Ryan, that is so cool. I cannot wait to check this all out. I absolutely love it. Okay, so last question. So what advice would you give to students who have a passion for theater, but not necessarily in stage performance? And I feel like really this whole chat has been like just a wealth of knowledge for students who want to do that. But how should they go about getting jobs or thinking about their careers that like still potentially involve their passions, but also like help them live out their strengths too?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's all about, well, it's all about balance. And I think it's really trying to discover who you are as a person and what's going to work for you. I think again, early on, I realized like, I don't think I'm the kind of person who can go to a bunch of auditions and
Yeah.
hope for a gig, knowing that it's, this world is really full of a lot of rejection. It's just kind of it's the world that we're entering into.
Mhm.
um and at Duke, being able to see, I'd love to see myself be a producer one day, produce a Broadway show, make something happen. Being in charge of that versus hoping to get cast in something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some people love auditioning for things. And
Mhm.
even the actors that we've talked to, they're like, you really need to enjoy the audition process, because that's technically your job. You're going to be
Yeah.
spending more time auditioning than potentially like in a gig.
Mhm.
So make sure that you love that part of your job.
Yeah.
um so I would say, if you're not going to be on stage, there are just so many opportunities to be involved. I mean, I was working at an advertising agency that was Broadway specific, and it was incredible. I never
Right.
thought I'd work at an ad agency. We just had a personal finance seminar, and the guy who came in and chatted loves theater, was highly involved in theater, but like he went into finance, but does specifically personal finance for theater people,
That's
theater
so awesome.
professionals.
I love
And so
that.
yeah, so like if theater is your passion, if performing is your passion, there's a way to make sure that that stays like involved and enveloped in what you're doing. And even with Ollie, obviously, like, did not think I would work in real estate, but
Right.
I was really lucky. And through one of my best friends at Duke, I sang in a band with him
Mhm.
throughout my time. And so like performing wasn't part of my job, but you can still find those creative outlets for yourself. And as a creative person, it's really important that you do that.
Mhm.
This is a really random tangent, but I highly recommend for all the creatives out there that you read a book called Big Magic.
Okay.
And it's about just that. You can be passionate about something, you can, whether it's sports or arts or pottery or whatever, that doesn't have to lead to monetary success. If you love going ice skating every single morning, you should go ice skating every single morning, with the goal just being bringing you joy. You don't
Yeah.
have to go to competitions. You don't have to go to the Olympics. And I think,
You don't have to go to
Jen,
the Olympics. It's
you
okay.
don't have to go to the Olympics. And I think that's also true, at a certain
Mhm.
point in school too. Like if you're not first violin, then you quit violin, or you're not gonna be good enough to play softball in college, but
Yeah. But you
it
still
doesn't
do it because
matter.
it's so fun. Yeah.
Exactly. And like that's the whole point of, this Big Magic, the book, again, highly recommend. And it made me realize like I can enjoy performing and being on stage, knowing that that's not my career,
Yeah.
and I can be okay with that. So yeah, that's kind of my advice in a nutshell, I guess.
Ryan, I love all of this. Thank you so much for doing this with us. It
Thank
was
you,
so fun to
Andy.
learn about all of this. I can't wait to look at Broadway Plus and check it all out. If anyone wants to reach out to you just to learn more about Broadway Plus or you, can they do that, and where can they do that?
Yes, you guys, I would love to hear from all of you. The easiest would just be email me at Ryan, Ryan, at broadwayplus.com.
Great.
Um, yep, or follow me on Instagram,
Yes.
Murph Pup.
Murph Pop.
DM me.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. So much
Thanks,
fun.
Annie.
Okay. See you soon.